Welcome back to my how to paint a building in a landscape. On the first video I did the demonstration of the sky, the tree, the hedging and of course the foreground field. So if you haven't seen stage 1, please do so. Now I'm going to paint the second stage of this lovely little landscape. You know, the techniques that I apply to this landscape pretty much applies to all landscapes really. They're variations, but it's very much the same, or all summer landscapes anyway. Right, I'm going to paint in the distant field. It could be a wooded area, it could be a distant hills, just a distant field. That's that piece running along the back there, and because I can see it's in line with that, I may even suggest it there at that point. For that, whatever it was, even if it was buildings, I'd still probably paint it in the same colour, ultramarine blue with a touch of alizarin crimson, just to make it a purpley blue really, but not too much red in there. It's vital that you don't add too much red, and all you do, just a simple grey flat along the bottom edge there, break it up where the hedge perhaps comes through, or even just paint over it. Well, I've just painted over it, there you go. And then as you run it in towards that tree, finish on the edge of that tree. That's your distant land, and I would suggest it probably comes across here somewhere, so not a bad idea to finish. I'm not finishing it dead on the roof line corner, finishing it a little bit higher up. There we are, because that then suggests that land then runs straight through. Just come down a little bit more there, just about get the distance right. Okay, now the main building. Well, I'm going to paint. I'm trying to use as large brushes as possible. I'm not playing around with small brushes. Nice if you can buy brushes that point pretty well, but once the points go, which mine does after a little while, purely because I'm using them so much they tend to wear away really. Now I'm going to paint in the roof. It's going to be a red tile roof. Good mix for red tile roofing. Several mixes for them for a red tile roof, but I'm going to use burnt sienna. It's a nice orangey brown. I'm going to put raw sienna with that. So it's burnt sienna and raw sienna. Now that gives us a nice orange, nice warm orange colour, which is pretty much what we're looking for. But I'm going to just knock it back a touch, because a lot of these roofs have a lot of aging to them, so they're not quite as brilliant as in colour as they as you would have thought. And the tone value, well, needs to be fairly dark, but not too dark. That's a bit heavy for that. Actual fact, I'm going to add a little bit of red to that, just to freshen it up. Looks a bit dull. There we are. So it's a nice warm colour. There we go. That's warmer. Now, ridge tiles, not a bad idea, just to suggest those. I'm not getting into detail. If you notice, I'm just popping them in, leaving the odd bit of gap. Not too concerned that it's not dead straight. It's an old building. No sense in painting it as if that was brand new. Leaving a bit of jointing and painting down. We'll just see the back of that roof there, and notice how I'm painting across the and I'm trying to get a rough edge on the outside there. It's all to do with creating that aged feel. Notice how I've left one or two little flecks of white. Also, it's quite uneven there on the outside edge. And as I'm painting across, notice how I've left one or two little flecks of white, and that roof then stands down there. Go right down to the gutter line. Now on the gable end, this side, you will see the overhanging tiles there, and that there again needs to be painted quite uneven. Now the chimney breast chimney stack will be much darker. I always feel that they are quite dark, particularly against the light sky, so I'm going to paint the brick surrounds, painting this side first. Shadows will come in. If that blends into the roof because it's still wet, then so much the better. Go. And the chimney itself, I'm going to put that in quite a bright reddy brown, because it could be a yellow, but it would be too much of a good thing with the yellow cloud. So I'm going to paint in, leave a small bead of white on the right hand side, sorry, the left hand side, purely to denote the, bring that right into the chimney, doesn't matter if that blends in, to denote sunlight on the right hand side of the chimney. That's all that does really. Okay, now it could be a brick building, but I'm going to make it a rendered building. If it were to be brick, it would be a similar sort of colour. Or a stone building. Shall we have a stone building? That's interesting. Right, how do we get a stone building? Raw sienna. Right, start off with raw sienna. And as a basic sort of wash colour. And that's going to be stone as well. Notice, because I'm painting stone, I'm leaving white. I'm just dotting this colour around, just purely so as to get a bit of variation. Same on the gable end. Painting around the windows. There we are. That's the first sort of colour. I'm going to use raw sienna, and I'm going to use ultramarine, and I'm going to use alizarin crimson, because I'm looking for a warm grey, because those stones, I do think, will have a lot of grey in them. So I'm just hinting at the grey, uneven grey edges that we would see within that stonework. Could be flint actually. We try to denote the windows fairly well, but doesn't hurt to leave the odd white patch here and there. There we go. I'm going to allow that to dry. What about a touch of that stonework there? There you go. Just allow that to dry for a moment. Now I'm going to do windows, because I need to just go back and elaborate a little bit on that stonework. But the windows, now, very interesting subject. Windows. I'm going to use ultramarine blue with burnt sienna. Could use burnt umber, but nice dark. And don't be afraid to be dark with these windows. Dark, warm brown, or even a dark blue. Some people think they reflect the sky. Well, they will do if you're close to a building, but if you're standing back, then the sky generally doesn't reflect. Particularly with old buildings, there are only small windows, so very little light in the rooms. So it appears quite dark. And I'm going to start. Let's start with the window in the door, like that. And while we've got this colour, let's just put the handle on there. Then I'm going to paint the window glazed areas, leaving, and you notice how rough I've painted those, leaving the frame cross sections unpainted. Well, so that's all you need to do for these windows. 1, 2, 3, 4. And we'll just hint at a bit of glazing in that one. Go. That's your glazed area. Now I'm just going to go back, now it's dry, and just put in a little bit more of the stone work. Mainly there's a lintel over the top of the windows and doors. That's always a nice little place to start. 1 or 2 little touches of stones of a different shade. There we go, little blocks of them sometimes that tend to, you know, don't want to add too many of these, but it's always nice to introduce some of that colour. Sometimes you get a row of supporting blocks down the edge, and you must remember a little bit of perspective in the side edge there, although that's going to be in shadow anyway. Lovely. Yeah, that's pretty much what I'm looking for. Good. And leave that one a little bit cleaner. Okay, now the track. Oh, what about the door? Let's give that a blue door, ultramarine. Perhaps that's been painted, so it's quite a strong blue. I think the glazing's dry, but anyway, we get a bit of running of the handle, doesn't really matter. Nice strong blue door there like that. Come down to the step and finish at the step. Yeah, that's it. It looks an old, aged building. That's what we're looking for. Try and get that aged look. Good. Now the track. Well, start off with a dull sort of yellowy colour. Slightly green that. So let's introduce a little bit of burnt sienna to that. Just we want a bit of earthy tone to that. There we are. Just so as we can see that. And there's also a little bit of that earthy tone for the path. And you see at the moment most of it looks quite flat. It won't when we bring shadow in. Now as I come forward I'm adding more burnt sienna, and you have a look at that. So how that creates a richer tone. Painting back. And I'm even going to put a bit of red into that. There we are. Bring that. You know, I know, you know, a lot of people say, well, never seen red in a track before, but what we're doing, we're playing with colour. We're creating cooler colour in the distance, warmer colour in the foreground. When it all dries off, you'll begin to see the feeling of depth. Okay, well, we could just put in one or two little finishing touches, but to be fair, we're getting there. There is shadows to go in, obviously it's nowhere near finished, but let's just put in a gutter. Burnt sienna, ultramarine, blue-grey, denoting a black gutter. Could be coloured, but I do like the blue gutters. And remember, don't paint your gutters too wide. Now it could break there and you'll have two downpipes, okay? Or lots of gutters just carry on straight through. And I'm going to carry this straight through because it's quite interesting when they do. This one overhangs the gable end a touch, then you have like an S-bend. And it comes down like that, one or two little breaks where there's sort of a joint, just to denote the jointing really. And there again, that is the next stage of painting a building. Buildings are very, very similar. You've always got a roof and normally a chimney. You've got walls, they can be brick, they can be stone, they can be just straight rendering. But this one I've denoted as a stone, so it's got a bit of little bit of character because it's meant to be an old building. I do like old buildings. So we're gradually building up this this lovely cottage subject. I'm going to allow that to dry. That's the end of the second stage. The third stage, and probably the most important, is the shadow work, and I will show you that on the video of painting a building stage 3. Thank you for watching.